Hello and welcome to Dakota Boys Talk Movies with Steven.
And Dakota.
And what another beautiful hot day it was here where we are. We're going to be reviewing Ant-Man tonight. That'll be the main topic of point on this episode. But first we're going to go into, it's been a while. July has been kind of hectic and we haven't had a chance to get together. We finally saw Ant-Man. I guess it's a little past the time, but that's alright. It's still fun to talk about movies and stuff. But one of the things that kind of came in the midst of this month is, of course, Comic-Con. July, another big thing in July is Comic-Con. Everything's in July. You know, our country's birthday. Everybody wants to do everything in July. And then Comic-Con's in there, too. So, a few things that came out of Comic-Con were obviously, I think, three of the bigger things. Actually, there's four. Because it was Batman v Superman, Suicide Squad, Deadpool, and X-Men Apocalypse were kind of the four big things. But there were some trailers that came out of that. What was one of the trailers that caught your fancy, Dakota, in the past few weeks?
Well, this is going to shock you, but it was Suicide Squad.
Yeah.
For those of you who don't know what that is, it was a comic, actually, I think from the 50s or 60s.
Yeah, somewhere. I thought it was 60s, but maybe it is older than that.
It's old. It's older than me and Steven combined. So it's old. And the original premise was they got these soldiers that were a little on the suicidal side and sent them on these missions where they would most likely be killed, and therefore everyone would come out a winner. And then in the 80s, some writers took the concept of that team and applied it to supervillains. And the Suicide Squad 2.0 was born.
Yeah, a really interesting way to take the Suicide Squad by having these supervillains. It's just kind of an interesting idea. Part of it is you think, how are they going to get these people to work together? And there was a pretty good animated movie version of it that came out. What was that, last year?
Oh yeah.
What was it called? Assault on Arkham?
Yeah, the Assault on Arkham.
So if you are interested right now in Suicide Squad stuff, I mean, that's a place to go to. I thought that was a pretty decent animated movie. WB does some pretty good DC animated stuff.
Yeah. The whole time I was watching the trailer, you do see the Suicide Squad, and I was thinking, okay, I hope they put the bombs in the neck. And then I hope one of these guys has the nerve to say, I'm not doing this, and tries to run. And then they set the bomb off, and next thing you know, yeah.
Yeah, which one do you think is throwaway enough to do that, too?
Oh.
I know there's a lot of people probably crossing their fingers that it'll be Jai Courtney, but I don't know if that's going to happen. But you also a lot of people are forgetting that Joel Kinnaman is also in this movie, and I'm not sure how I feel about that casting either.
Yeah, he was kind of a last-minute substitution, really, because it seemed like Tom Hardy dropped out, weeks before the movie was supposed to shoot?
Yeah, not too long before they had to start at least prepping.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it was kind of interesting. But yeah, what were some things in the trailer that got you more excited? What were some things in the trailer that got you excited?
Well, you actually got to see the characters in the movie up close, which obviously some pictures leaked of what they were going to look like.
Yeah, right.
And a lot of
Well,
people,
and then one was an actual professional photo too, I guess. But
yeah, but that didn't really do the job. This one, you gotta see them really up close, and it kind of gives you a feel for how this movie is gonna be, which it seems really dark, but also at the same time a lot of action, which.
Yeah, according to that trailer, which you think to yourself, wow, this hasn't even gone through post-production or any tweaking. It was already a pretty tense, fast-moving trailer. I mean, honestly, they cut together a bunch of scenes, but it still seemed like in those scenes a lot of things were going on.
Yeah.
So, what do you feel about Will Smith? Do you think he'll be a distraction, or do you think he'll work? Do you think he's too much star power for a team of a lot of nobodies and newcomers?
Yeah, that's true. Well, you gotta keep in mind that in the comics, Deadshot is just a total anti-hero, and he's a loner. But at the same time, he's kind of becomes the leader.
Right.
So you need somebody that could be a leader. And,
Sure.
Some people are said like, why is he black? It's like, just go with it.
So you think maybe they maybe went with Will Smith just because, he has a little more acting behind him to
Yeah.
be the leader guy of it, instead of having some newcomer. You don't want to trust that to a newcomer, apparently, huh?
Which is probably why Joel Kinnaman isn't headlining the movie.
Yeah.
Because that is technically how it is supposed to be. His character is the leader, but
Who is he?
he is playing a character called Rick Flag.
Rick Flag, okay. And then who's Captain Boomerang?
That is a Flash villain who is known for throwing boomerangs.
Okay.
Australian. He was pretty much just a bank robber.
Okay. So that's Jai Courtney's character? Is that the deal? So, and Jai Courtney is Australian in real life, so the interesting thing here could be is an easy man to hate to a lot of people. Jai Courtney, maybe this is a role that might fit him.
Yeah, and
it's hard to say.
And he's actually, I don't know, it makes you wonder how they're going to go with him, because in the comics he was just the character Captain Boomerang was just a scumbag. It's like,
so does he literally he throws boomerangs then?
Yeah. Well, he has variations on him. I'm like, oh, this one is really sharp and it'll cut you or stab you, or this one releases a gas that'll knock you out. This one will cause a huge explosion and kill a lot of people. So it's almost like, he has variation kind of trick boomerangs, like,
Sure. Like kind of like Hawkeye, but with boomerangs in a way.
Yeah.
Gotcha. And I know there's a few others on the team that were really briefly touched on, like Katana. She's barely in the trailer. They kind of show her lurking around. Enchantress is kind of in there, but at the same time, what they do show of her seems important to set up her character more, having her creep around in some cave in a pool type thing. But obviously, the one who steals the show is the one you're expecting to steal the show out of the Suicide Squad people is Harley Quinn.
Yeah.
And I'm guessing you're feeling pretty good about that casting choice and what they showed in that trailer. Are you feeling pretty good about Margot Robbie?
I do, because come on, let's be clear. Harley Quinn can go wrong so many different ways.
Yes.
And it looks like she has a handle on her. I mean, she seems to pull off crazy pretty well.
Yeah, and it's something that's easy to go, what's the word, maybe caricature?
Yeah.
And she seems like she's playing the role instead of like you're saying, like she's playing the role but almost in like it can come across as cartoonish almost in a way. But same way with the Joker, which how'd you feel about the Joker presence in this trailer? Do you think Jared Leto?
I actually liked it. I mean, it shows you just obviously this is going to be kind of the Joker that not the goofy trickster, but the psychopath who, like those of you who are familiar with the storyline, The Killing Joke, it seems like he may not physically look like that, but that's how he's going to be, where he is just totally insane.
Yeah, he does seem...
And completely just out for himself.
He does seem totally bonkers in the way they're making him. Do you think Zack Snyder had any say in maybe how the Joker looks, since he's going to have to be doing the Joker in the future? Or I guess Ben Affleck. It sounds like maybe Ben Affleck's going to have more to do with the Joker if he's taking the helm of Batman.
I guess he's directing the solo Batman movie they have coming out. But
that's the rumor. You do wonder, just because he seems... I don't know, maybe it's just I don't know David Ayer a whole lot, the director of Suicide Squad, but it just seems like Zack Snyder just likes to take things that you think and throw them kind of off kilter in a way, Even with Superman, the way he did him is like, you think Superman, it's just going to be like, oh, another kind of good guy movie, but he kind of threw it off to where it's like, he doesn't seem quite as good guy as you're used to, where he isn't coming across so pure, and I mean, you can bicker about that all day, as people have about, Man of Steel was a good movie. It had, not everything was perfect, but what movie is really? We can get into that with the movie we're talking about tonight, I guess. But I guess for me, one that really stuck out to me, it was just because it surprised me, where I got to see more and see like, wow, this might actually not be terrible or a terrible idea, is Batman v Superman, or however you're supposed to say it, Dawn of Justice. I was just pleasantly surprised with the setup of the whole premise, because I'm like, how are they, we don't even have a Justice League, and somehow these two are already going to be bickering. Well, how they brought that in was they went back to the whole Metropolis fight from Man of Steel, And that's how they kind of brought Bruce Wayne into the picture. And I thought that was a cool segue, whether it was contrived or not after the fact, where Zack Snyder's going, crap, I wrecked Metropolis and everybody's mad. And so whether they did it that way or not, it works, and I think that's a good way to bring Bruce into the story.
Yeah, the funny part is Zack Snyder, even though no story was written for the sequel to Man of Steel, he claims that this is what he wanted all along.
Well, that's what I would say, too, if I were him, even if I meant it or not.
Because they were actually brainstorming, oh, well, hey, we had a hit movie, we're making another one. What's him, Christopher Nolan, David Goyer all sat around, and his first suggestion was Batman versus Superman. And
people have been wanting that for a while. So.
I wish I could have been there to hear the other... what Christopher Nolan and David Goyer thought.
Especially David Goyer. That guy's kind of kooky. You never know what's going to come out of that guy's brain. So who knows what he came up with.
But yeah, the whole wrecking, people kind of, that's one thing people had a problem with his movie. Like, you pretty much just destroyed an entire city just for fun to make your movie seem cooler. And I think this is his way of kind of saying, well, it wasn't really that cool because people did die. One of the buildings you see in the trailer that gets taken down is Wayne Enterprises building. And obviously...
And Bruce Wayne hugging a little girl that's probably going to be future Robin. No, I'm just kidding. I don't know.
Yeah, he takes her in, and there's the future Robin right there.
Yeah.
How
would you like to come work for me and eventually be killed by the Joker?
Which, I feel like we should talk about that. The cooler parts of the trailer. One of them being you do see a Robin costume with some Joker writing on it that kind of implies that that he did kill whichever Robin it was.
Yeah, which is kind of disturbing.
Yeah.
And the other thing that was kind of weird was that Robin costume was very dark.
Yeah.
Like, usually Robin's like the brightly dressed one. Anyway, that was another thing that threw me off, where I didn't even notice it was Robin right away, because it was just so dark. I was like, what is that? And I'm like, oh, there's an R on it, and then realizing that it was, what it was, and that it was implying that Joker killed Robin, probably.
Which, I actually thought that was kind of cool, because, for those of you who don't know, one of the Robins was killed by the Joker in the comics. And years, like literally decades later, they did a storyline where that Robin turned out to have survived that attack, and he came back to Gotham with a vengeance.
And they kind of brought, speaking of Killing Joke, they reused the Red Hood idea.
Yeah.
And he became the Red Hood. Was that Jason Todd?
Yeah. Who also has kind of made headway just this last month, because it turns out the Arkham Knight was Jason Todd.
Oh, in the video game, right.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, kind of interesting, all that tie-in. But enough of this DC dribble. No, just kidding. We'll get into our main review, which tonight is Marvel's movie, Ant-Man.
Imagine a soldier the size of an insect. The ultimate secret weapon.
If you give godlike powers to everyone, there's going to be chaos.
So how do we stop him?
I know a guy. Scott, I've been watching you for a while. You're different. And I believe everyone deserves a shot at redemption. Do you?
Absolutely. My days of breaking into places and stealing stuff are over. What do you want me to do?
I want you to break into a place and steal some stuff.
Makes sense.
So Ant-Man was a movie, just like every movie is. You always come out and you go, well, that was a movie. But this one was surprisingly good. It was a lot better than I thought it was going to be. I basically... And this is... And I'm not talking about, like, this is a movie where it's like, oh, it was good because I had such low expectations. It wasn't one of those. It was like... It wasn't just like, okay, I expected it to be bad, and they met the... They just hit the bar or something. this actually exceeded any sort of expectations I could have set, even if I had some high expectations for it. I think, honestly, my only complaint with it, I guess I'll just get my complaints out of the way, would be, I felt like I was okay with the humor in it, honestly, but I felt like some of the humor did need to be there, and I felt like it was taking away a little bit too much from certain serious moments, you know?
Yeah.
And I get it. It just seems like, in the past, Marvel's been pretty good about balancing the whole lighthearted, funniness with the serious moments. But I felt in this one there were certain times where it was a little off balance, where maybe Paul Rudd had too much to say, and how there would be this moment that was really good, and then they just throw in something funny to take you out of that moment for a second, and it was like, I wish they would just let that moment be, because there's enough other humor in this movie.
To quote the movie, he ruined the moment.
Yeah, there was a moment where he literally goes, I ruined the moment. And that was a moment where, I don't know, I was kind of mad they decided to do that, because I thought that was a good moment. I thought it really was a good Evangeline Lilly, Michael Douglas moment, and then Paul Rudd had to do something stupid and then be self-aware about that it was stupid, ruining the moment. And so, I don't know. But otherwise, I guess just for starters, for me, exceeded expectations. What about you, Dakota?
Yeah, same for me right here. Come on, it's Ant-Man. Who is Ant-Man exactly?
Yeah, exactly. It was like, okay, a guy who shrinks down and can use ants. I mean, it's like, you don't really put it really high on your list of excited things. But
and on top of that, Paul Rudd. Oh wow, Paul Rudd's playing
I was not. Yeah, I will admit I was not happy about that casting.
But you know what? It really does work. They kind of just, the stars kind of align. They got everything to work together. One thing that really surprised me in this movie was Michael Douglas is actually really good in this movie.
Really good. I thought because of him knowing what kind of movie it was, and maybe him just kind of like, well, I got hired for this movie or something. But he actually seemed like he cared.
Yeah.
I really felt like it was A-game Michael Douglas in this movie, which I honestly thought it would be more like C-grade Michael Douglas in this movie. I thought he just... And maybe he is a good enough actor to where he would maybe say, well, I was phoning it in. But I thought it worked in the movie. Whatever he did,
yeah,
he was really good. And honestly, I started forgetting he was Michael Douglas.
Yeah,
which I didn't think I was due. I didn't think I would do.
One thing I thought as the movie kept going and going, I was like, I kind of said to myself, it's like, why can't we have an Ant-Man movie with his Ant-Man? Because he seems like he was kind of kicking a lot of butt back in the good old Cold War. Yeah,
it was another case of I am interested in the backstory there. It reminded me of when I went to, I'm sorry to bring this up, anyone if this brings back hurtful memories for you, Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, and Indiana Jones and Ray Winstone, whatever his character's name was in the movie, were talking about things they did in Russia during the Cold War, you know, and I'm like, I'm almost more interested in that than I am in what's going on in this movie right now. You know, I would like to see what they exactly did, you know, as spies for America, more than I care about Shia LaBeouf swinging with monkeys.
Yeah, I think most every Indiana Jones fan was thinking that same thing.
But in this movie, I will say, I did care about what was going on in this movie, but yes, I was with you where I was like, I would be interested in knowing what him and you know, did, and it was another Cold War situation too, like he worked, did stuff during the Cold War. It would be interesting to see what happened with Hank Pym, the first Ant-Man.
Which I think it's cool that they kind of imply that, oh, well, you know, cool stuff was going on in this universe before Iron Man showed up. Yeah. It's like, oh, he didn't show up and then all of a sudden everything happened.
Right. There were superheroes before Stark, you know. And it was funny because even Hank Pym jokes about how about Iron Man having like just a stupid suit. He like makes fun of Iron Man's suit and about his being like, you know, better, which I thought was kind of funny.
Which from his point of view, you kind of have to give it to him. It's like, wow, you created this technology that lets people shrink
He
down.
created a Pym particle, that can do things, that can make, what is it, bring matter together to make it more smaller and dense or something.
Yeah, it brings atoms together and then
science mumbo jumbo.
obviously we weren't the top of our class.
We were like the Michael Pena in this movie, who kind of stole the show in a lot of moments. His character, but I guess on that, with we talked about Michael Douglas, Paul Rudd, both being good in their role. What'd you feel about the cast around them? Did you feel like anyone was out of place or didn't work, or did you think that they did a good job casting, considering there was a director out and a kind of a director in last minute?
Yeah, I thought the whole cast was pretty good. Sometimes in these movies when you have a dad trying to get to see who's separated from his child, going through a divorce, all that. The wife tends to just kind of be a, witch with a bee, and then the kid is annoying. But this was actually like you could tell that there was more going on there than that, and I was like, wow, these guys actually put a lot of heart into this. So that was interesting to see.
Yeah, the story around the superhero origin story type stuff was still. They still did a good job until they put time and care into it. It wasn't like, okay, let's move on to this filler scene and this filler. I mean, every scene you felt like kind of mattered, and they had the same amount of care in it, whether it was the Feast of Resistance action scene or not.
Yeah, because, you gotta face it, every year more and more of these superheroes movies are coming out. We have Fantastic Four coming up, and the hardest one to get is that origin story. I mean, Fantastic Four, look at that. I mean, it was an okay movie, but it didn't really get too many people excited to see others in that franchise.
The first X-Men was considered a success, but at the same time, a lot of people will concur that it wasn't the greatest origin story movie or setting up, a series.
A lot. Honestly, I liked it when it came out, but some of the friends I went to see it with were like, "Wow, that was so boring. Who thought they could turn somebody as cool and as interesting as Wolverine, make him boring?" And I was just like, "What?"
Yeah, a lot of people thought it was boring and that Rogue was whiny, and it was just kind of all those things going on.
Yeah, and that they watered down Sabretooth.
Yeah, there was a lot, and so that was another one. Where it's like you can't have your misses on origin stories, and then. Of course, you had Amazing Spider-Man, which a lot of people felt was like a rewrapping of the first Spider-Man, just with like kind of hipper scenes, kind of stuff. And yeah, you're right. Origin story movies can be pretty tough, but this one, I feel like in a way, bringing in, having his new director come in so late, I think was to its advantage, because I think he realized. I really have to bring my A game to this, because there's, I'm guessing he felt the pressure a little bit.
Oh, yeah.
But at the same time, he's going, a lot of people are not really caring about this movie, especially now that Edgar Wright left. I got to make sure I do a really good job with this, because everybody's going, I'm the director of Bring It On. What can I possibly bring to a Marvel action movie? And
well, I think part of it too is everyone thought, oh well, Edgar Wright left because he wasn't gonna get his way. So,
yeah, right.
So the studio just hired someone to push their propaganda. So why would I want to see this thing in the first place? Because Edgar Wright, which is, I find this odd, he has a huge amount of fans out there, kind of like Kevin Smith, except Edgar Wright's actually a decent director.
They're like hardcore.
Yeah.
Like, we only watch the Cornetto trilogy and Scott Pilgrim type fans. Yeah.
It's like if you didn't get Scott Pilgrim, you just aren't worth knowing type people.
Yeah. Yep. So yeah, so that was what was going on there, was that when he left, it was almost like, is this just going to be a throwaway movie or whatever? But this new director, Peyton Reed, yes,
yeah,
I had that right. He claims that a lot of Edgar Wright's ideas, at least, the stuff that he had a little more fleshed out storyboard-wise, they left in the movie. A lot of those ideas were left in the movie, including, this isn't a spoiler since it's in the trailer, the Thomas the Tank Engine thing. Apparently that was an Edgar Wright thing, or it'd be cool. He's like, it'd be cool to have a Thomas Tank Engine thing in there. And so, they decided to leave that and make it work, and got a hold of the Thomas Tank Engine people to get the rights to use Thomas in it. And that actually ends up being pretty funny. There's even more to it than that's in the trailer that ends up being a really kind of funny and cool scene. But, as far as casting goes and as far as bringing on a new director, I think all that really worked out to his favor. Evangeline Lilly, I came to know her because of Lost, which is when most people got to know her, because before that I think she was like girl at locker in this movie. She really had nothing before Lost for the most part, and so that was when, like I said, it was when a lot of people got to know her. But I've always kind of wanted her to do well, just because I thought she was good on Lost.
Yeah. And
then they, Peter Jackson threw her into the Hobbit movies, and she didn't really need to be there, but honestly, she was still good.
Yeah.
And then she had a few other, like, wife parts in, like, Hurt Locker and Real Steel stuff. But I really felt like this was the first time she really got to kind of shine in a role on the big screen.
Yeah, that's certainly true.
And she was really good. I thought she was really good in that role. Sometimes when you're playing kind of the grumpy, liberated woman, they can go so far that they end up kind of being like annoying, or you don't care or whatever. But I thought she really balanced that well, to where you knew she wanted to take care of herself, you knew she could take care of herself, and I don't know, I thought she's played it well too, so I thought that was good. As far as the premise of it, it's really a heist movie.
Yeah, that's pretty true.
Pretty much
Which I thought was funny, because T.I. was in this, and
really random.
It seems like okay. I'm trying to remember here. Was he in 2 movies that involved like stealing a large amount of cash, or was it just
Yes,
one?
thank you.
Yeah,
I was thinking about that. What was that movie he was in? Was it that armored car one? Was he in that one?
Yeah, armored car and Takers, I think, were the.
Oh, maybe it was Takers he was in. Maybe I put him into that armored car one too. Maybe he was just in Takers. I knew he was in one of those like that. But
I could have swore I've seen him in another movie that involved, there's large amounts of cash, we're gonna go steal it.
Payday!
It did seem kind of weird, him and Michael Douglas's character kind of talking to each other.
Yes. Yeah, there are a few. That's what's kind of cool about Marvel, though, is that they're able to get a lot of A-lister celebrities now, but at the same time they still like to bring in kind of like new, and so it's like you have this interesting mixture of like top tier Hollywood doing a movie with like these below us people, but that's kind of cool how that kind of works. So really the premise of this is it really is a heist movie, which they say in the trailer. It's a little more colorful in the movie. They changed the line in the trailer to make it a little more appropriate for all audiences, type thing, about how Hank wants him to steal something, and what it is that he has a the guy who kind of took over his company is trying to figure out how to make his own kind of Pym particle suit, which he calls himself the Yellow Jacket.
Which is kind of a combination of Hank Pym's suit and the Iron Man suit, it seems like.
Alright, I just want to get... Do you feel like Darren Cross, the Yellow Jacket, is basically the Green Goblin / Norman Osborn?
Yeah.
It felt so much.
Especially...
Like, he's in there, like, saying how great his suit is, and then he goes insane. Yeah. He goes insane in his suit. I mean, it's like, this is Green Goblin Norman Osborn. That's what it really felt like.
There's also a scene where he's in the bathroom, he's washing his hand, and all of a sudden he just stops and he looks at himself in the mirror.
Yeah.
And I was expecting him to say something.
Yeah, like
really
to talk
weird.
to himself. And in the mirror he's holding like a glass of scotch or something. Yeah,
Or
that
smoking like a cigar.
that was the. If you want to talk about another like kind of flaw in this movie, besides, like I said, I kind of pointed out like maybe some of the humor is along bounds. It was another good superhero movie where the villain, I don't know. I mean, he was fine, I guess, or whatever. But you really weren't
too invested in him.
Yes, and it's funny, but you almost have to be just as invested in your villain, as you do in your hero, for these movies to work on the greatest level. Which is, I think, why a lot of people put Dark Knight at the top, because everybody was just as invested in Heath Ledger's Joker as they were in Christian Bale's Batman.
I think that's why Loki is kind of like the favorite of all these. Villain of all
people were really invested in Tom Hiddleston's portrayal of Loki.
And I think he's like the only one so far that actually comes across as having ideas of his own and being like someone that could actually exist.
The only one I would argue, and this is one that actually isn't brought up enough. This movie is brought up a lot, but Alfred Molina's Dr. Octopus.
Ah, yes.
You really got invested into him. They gave him enough. Alfred Molina, he was good. He was good at that role, and they gave him enough screen time pre-Crazy to like kind of solidify himself as a guy you liked, or at least could relate to in a certain way. Yeah. On some level, to where you kind of still had some feelings for him when he was bad. Which some people would argue is the Spider-Man villain problem, is that all of them are bad, but at the same time, you feel bad for them.
Yeah.
Or something type of thing.
I think that whole
But I felt like Alfred Molina's worked the best.
I think that whole thing kind of got started with Magneto.
Yeah.
Throughout the first two X-Men movies, you're kind of just like, well, he was kind of turned into this by people, and maybe it's okay.
And First Class, really solidified that even more. Yeah. Where it's like, you want to like him pretty bad in First Class, but at the same time, you know who he's going to become. Yeah. Kind of the... Never mind. That would be a terrible example. I was going to say Anakin to Darth Vader, but honestly, you kind of just wanted Anakin to become Darth Vader by the end. Like, just get a Darth Vader in here, please.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure a lot of people were saying that halfway through Attack of the Clones.
We need Darth Vader, or at least Darth Maul.
Yeah.
Everybody loved Darth Maul, even though he was like barely in the movie.
I find it interesting that that Boba Fett was supposed to have been obviously killed off. They brought him back. Darth Maul has yet to really have that. Although in the Clone Wars cartoon show, supposedly the spirit of him came back and...
Yeah, and then there's the...
which was just weird.
How it should have ended, when he drags the top half of his body over to the Emperor, and he's like, Master, I'm still here. And then Palpatine just backs away like, But yeah, I know people are... I'm surprised they haven't figured out a crawl his way out of a sandpit scenario for Darth Maul yet. That's what they did with Boba Fett, right? He crawled his way out of the 1,000 years of digestion or whatever.
Robot Chicken actually made a bunch of skits about that. About him being locked in the Sarlacc's belly, and eventually the thing just spit him out because it was tired of talking.
I heard a guy talk about a premise where they would like a Boba Fett movie to be about him being in the Sarlacc pit and who he meets in there, and then it'd be like a movie of him, getting out of there. It'd be like, what in the world? That'd be a messed up movie.
There you go. There's an escape from the prison movie.
It'd be like The Great Escape, but Boba Fett in the Sarlacc pit stomach thing. So,
naturally, he's the only one to make it out.
Yeah,
he sacrificed a couple friends to get.
I guess you could treat the Sarlacc pit is basically like the Phantom Zone, apparently, according to some people. But yeah, anyway, so you could argue there was maybe a villain problem in Ant-Man, to get back to what we were talking about with Ant-Man.
I honestly kind of liked him. I mean, he's certainly more likable than the villain they had in Iron Man, which I was kind of let down by that because Jeff Bridges is actually a really good actor.
Yeah, that was another movie where it was like, it started off the Marvel Cinematic Universe, really good movie, but again, the villain was a little weak, you know, but he was bald, just like this one.
True.
That's the key.
And I won't even get into the Mandarin from Iron Man 3. That's just...
And he was he bald? No, he had...
Well, he had that...
ponytail thing.
Yeah, that weird thing where he had
I'm thinking of Ben Kingsley. Ben Kingsley's bald. Yeah. But, yeah. Iron Man 3, I guess that's a whole other thing, because it's like, who was the villain in that? It's the whole thing with that.
I say the villain was Tony Stark.
He's
That's
himself.
that's what I'm going against.
Another interesting thing with this movie was I wasn't expecting so many tidbits, cameo type things, nods to, winks at.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna throw in all those little hinty things to Avengers things, and you know, a certain person that's supposed to be joining the Marvel Cinematic Universe here soon because of a certain deal that came through the studio. I just wasn't expecting all of those type things to be in this movie.
Yeah.
There's a lot. You know, you always expect like the post-credit scene, but in the movie, there
was
was hinting at things and showing of things. And that was just surprising and honestly was nice because all the other movies have been giving us lately is Thanos standing there smiling. And I think we're all kind of sick of Thanos just standing there smiling, going, okay, we get it. The Infinity Wars is coming. But what's going to tease us something in the meantime, you know?
Yeah.
So yeah, I thought that was nice. And the special appearance in the movie, I thought that was good. I liked the use of that person. I won't say who it is if you haven't seen it. But I really liked... I really liked what they did with that person, too.
That was definitely one of the high points of the movie, for sure.
Yeah, the way they had Ant-Man interact with that person and just the whole scene in general, it was really good. Yep, that was good. Yeah, anything else about the movie, Dakota, that, what do you think was, like, what did this movie bring? Okay, let's go with this route first, and then I'll ask you why. Where would you put this movie in terms of, like, the other MCU movies?
Oh, man. Definitely the top 40%.
Okay. All right. So what would you put it above? We'll start...
Ooh. I would definitely put it above the first Captain America.
Okay.
The two Thor movies.
Gotcha.
The Incredible Hulk. I don't know. Is the Incredible Hulk considered canon?
Yeah, it's MCU.
Okay.
Because Tony Stark is in it, and Thunderbolt Ross is coming back.
Oh, I did not know he was.
Yeah. Red Hulk. I'm really hoping for Red Hulk.
But, yeah. Whereas on the other side of that, I will say it is probably better than the first Iron Man.
You think this one is better than the first Iron Man?
Yeah. I'm going to go that far.
Okay.
Is it better than the second one, though? That I cannot answer. Or the third one, no. But definitely probably not as good as the Winter Soldier. Definitely not as good as any of the Avenger movies.
Sure.
Wow, I'm totally failing myself.
Well, I think
right
you've
now.
hit most of them.
Yeah.
I mean, you hit the Thors, you hit the Captain Americas, you hit the Iron Mans.
Actually, I'm gonna take that back. I'm gonna say it's on par with the Captain America movie.
Okay.
It's on par.
Yeah. Okay. So, what makes you put it to where you put it? I would almost say you put it like almost near the middle.
Yeah.
Basically.
Well, like I said, I had like no expectations for this movie whatsoever.
Guardians of the Galaxy. I guess that was one you didn't say. But
yeah, that's definitely on the upper portion.
yeah,
that's top 20%. But it was just an overall a good movie. I mean, whether you're into these, as my friend today quoted, superhero movies, I think you could just kind of sit down and watch it and actually just be entertained.
Yeah, I was trying to think about that. We're so far down the MCU pipeline where it's like, okay, can you actually just sit down and watch one of these and know next to nothing about a lot of the other stuff. Or let's say you maybe saw the Avengers, since everybody did. I think you still could enjoy this, which again is another a nice thing, because Marvel, I mean, granted, there is a lot of tie-ins to things in this movies, or things they hint at, which is good. You want that, but at the same time, some of those things, it wouldn't matter if you knew who that person was or knew what that meant. It would still be an enjoyable movie otherwise, which I think is why Feige has done the smart thing in saying, okay, yeah, this is an Ant-Man movie, but what if we make it kind of a heist, movie, or in the same thing with Winter Soldier, like, well, let's make it a political thriller to where you can enjoy Winter Soldier, and not even really care or like Captain America, but it's still just a really good thriller action movie, and things like that. I guess for me, I don't know where I would put Ant-Man. I mean, I definitely enjoyed this better than I enjoyed, the Thors, definitely.
Iron Man 3?
I don't know. See, I actually don't mind Iron Man 3, but Ant-Man is better than Iron Man 3.
Okay.
But I still like Ant-Man 3. My problem is I always find things in the movies that I like, except for the Thors. I really struggle to like things in the Thor movies.
Yeah.
I like Thor a lot. I like Hemsworth playing Thor a lot, and I like him in the Avengers movies. But to watch those movies is kind of tough. It's kind of tough to just watch Thor or watch Thor: The Dark World. Will Ragnarok change that? Possibly. Thor 3. I don't know. They're bringing. It seems like they're going to bring a lot of big stuff to that. But yeah, I guess I'm with you. It's just that they've done so many good movies. It's hard to know exactly where I'd put Ant-Man in that, except to say that it's a really good movie, and I think it fits right in with the rest in terms of, feeling a part of it, but at the same time kind of being fresh. It felt fresh. Yeah. You went into this movie, and it wasn't like, okay, here we go again. Let's set up some more stuff. It felt really fresh and new.
Yeah, this definitely wasn't one of those movies like, oh, I think I've seen this before.
Yeah, and that's a really good thing to its credit, because when you have a movie that's been basically in development for 10 years, and you have a movie that has a director leave and a director come in, you don't really expect it to be really that good. You expect it to maybe be a little bit of a throwaway, to put it with, like, okay, yeah, well, I'm glad, they had that, or they had this to fit it into the Avengers stuff, but it was a good movie. It was a good movie besides the whole MCU tie-in.
I think that's what I kind of like about this movie, and then one thing that I really liked about I know I'm going off topic here and going into TV shows, Daredevil. They kind of, even though they take place in this universe where, these other characters are running around doing their own thing, at the same time, they're in their own little world.
Yeah.
And it's kind of nice to see that. Obviously, I don't even think they say what his job is at the end of this, but Paul Rudd's character has his crew, which each one is a pretty fascinating character.
Yeah, to say the least.
Yeah, and Matt Murdock from Daredevil, kind of the same thing. Small little group of close-knit friends, and it all kind of works. And it's like, should Captain America show up? No. But it'd be nice if he did.
And Paul Rudd says a line that we've said in other Marvel movies. He goes, "Can't you just call in the Avengers?"
Yeah.
There's a point when Hank Pym comes to him and tells him what he wants him to do. Scott Lang, his character, goes, "Well, can't you just call in the Avengers?" I thought that was awesome, because that is what everybody's thinking. Like, why can't you call the Avengers? But Marvel always figures out this way to where that isn't going to work, or the Avengers can't know. Is kind of what it was here. And, they always find a way to make it at least believable within that space or time frame
Yeah.
or whatever. So for the most part, I mean, sometimes you could argue, like with Winter Soldier, it's like, really? Iron Man couldn't come in and help a little bit? You know, that is kind of the one thing you could say about, like, Winter Soldier or something. But, yeah, they always figure out how to make it work. And like you said, it's nice to kind of give them their own time to do things. It'll just be interesting to see where they go with him now. You know, where Ant-Man will fit into this Civil War thing that's coming, where he'll fit into the Infinity Wars.
It will be.
Will he become a main Avenger? You know, I don't. Who knows? So.
It would be interesting if they were like, oh, the next movie, he's becoming Giant Man.
Yeah.
Which was, for those of you who don't know, was another character that was pretty much Hank Pym, who could just grow really, really big.
Yeah, instead of becoming an ant, he got humongous.
He actually had a few. I'm trying to remember. I think there was like 5 superheroes that Hank Pym was at one point in time.
Oh, yeah?
Wow, I'm not going to sit here and try to think, because I'd be here all
yeah.
night.
And then, of course, when you talk Ant-Man, everybody wants to know, at least people know Ant-Man, what about the Wasp? You know, I mean, that's another thing. And so, yeah, that's stuff that comes up in this movie and things like that. So, it's cool to know that stuff's on the horizon, too, when you're talking big picture.
Yeah.
You know, that there's things like that on the horizon, and what are they going to do? What are they going to do with that? But I guess, overall, Ant-Man, obviously, if you're into the Marvel movies at all, you've probably already seen it. Or if you haven't, you should definitely go, because you're not going to be disappointed or anything like that. And just on the flip side of it, if you're a person who just wants a really good night out at the movies,
if you want to respite from the heat,
yeah,
you want to sit in the air conditioning.
it's a solid movie outside of even the realm of having to know all the nerdy stuff. And honestly, it was really refreshing to have this after Age of Ultron, which felt like so heavy and so full.
Oh, yeah.
And so mixed feelings. You know, to have this movie that was just kind of, like you said, like boiled down to this one person and really just fun and inventive, and how they did some of the shrinking stuff. You know, and it was fun to see how they pulled off some of that too. I thought the special effects were really good with most of that. It wasn't as jarring or pulling you out or anything. It kind of all flowed. And, yeah, I just give it a solid, I would see it in theaters, you know, if you have the chance to do that, definitely. So what about you, Dakota?
Yep, I'm definitely going to give this a strong recommendation. I do find it odd that I'm saying that you should see this character on the screen, considering he's small. He's ant-sized for a good portion of it when he's in his costume.
Yeah.
But, yeah, see the little man on the giant screen.
Never thought I would like a movie starring Paul Rudd. This is a first for me. It was weird, but just like Michael Douglas, he wasn't Paul Rudd to me in this movie, so that was nice. Except when he had that stupid one humorous part. It kind of threw me out. But anyway, other than that, so, yeah, any other thoughts on this then, Dakota?
No, not really.
Not really.
I will say that this was actually a fun movie to go to.
Yeah,
I mean,
really fun.
The last couple movies I went to, probably, they had their moments. Just going to throw this out here. Pixels and Terminator Genesis were the last 2 I saw. But for the most part, they weren't really like a solid movie.
Yeah.
Like, I wouldn't be like, hey guys, let's all head over to the theater or go to my place and watch this movie.
Sure.
But this one, yeah, I would definitely do that.
Mm-hmm. Last movie I saw was Minions, and I'll leave it at that. That I've been in a drought. So, yeah, so definitely check this out. On the topic of checking out, let me do that nice segue there. Remember to like us on Facebook, subscribe to us on YouTube or iTunes. Hopefully you have in one of those places, or whatever podcast listening app you use. We really hope you do that. Take advantage of that. You know, leave feedback. Leave us feedback. Our feelings aren't hurt too easily. So anyway, remember to do do those things, the Facebook and iTunes things, just because it's helpful and it makes us feel good when people seem to care. So we hope you do care. But I think on that note, we'll close this out. So I'm Steven.
And this is Dakota.
Have a good night.